If you like the content of this channel, consider supporting us by using patreon.com or using Brave Payments. Click below in the description. What's up, everyone? How you guys doing today? My name is Rex. This is your Daily Chat, Season 3, Episode 19 for June the 22nd, 2018. How's everybody doing today? What is going on? Man, so much news has come out in the last few days on the tech side, on the politics side, on the business side. Of course, the thing making the most waves out of all of the news topics has been the immigration policy of Trump, the backtracking, the family separations. And while that stuff is horrific and awful and every other thing you can think of that, you know, a normal person would think of, the part that I'm actually interested in is not the family separations. I actually don't care any about that at all. I care about the business back end. Because, yeah, there has been a lot of business backlash about this coming from companies like Amazon. And more specifically, from Amazon and I guess Microsoft, it's been coming from the employees. That's right, the employees are taking a stand and have been writing open letters to their CEO and top tier managers saying that you need to cancel, void all contracts with ICE, which is the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. You know what? I'm glad to see that this is kind of how things are going now. That the employees are starting to take a stand and saying, no, just because you pay us doesn't mean we have to do it. And while a lot of the managers trying to obviously salvage the PR, salvage the contracts, try and like downplay the employees' anger by saying, you know, oh, we don't do anything with ICE. We just provide, in Microsoft's case, their email server, or we provide some type of database thing for like their calendars. But the employees see right through that and they're like, no, you need to cancel all of it. Any form of helping ICE is helping ICE enforce these policies. So it's been great to see, and you can see right here in the article from Gizmodo. Yo, what up? What are we talking about? Just starting, man. Starting with ICE. You can see right here from Gizmodo. Days after Microsoft came under intense scrutiny for working with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement policy, NBC News revealed that a number of major tech firms have been raking in millions of dollars from the government agencies under the advisement of Trump administration, taken to stripping children from their families. So this article goes through all of the companies. So you have companies like Hewlett Packard, Thomson Reuters, Microsoft, Motorola Solutions, Planeteer, don't even know who they are, all been working with ICE and all raking in $5 million, $35 million, $53 million. They just rake in so much money. And the only company so far to even respond to this public employee backlash has been Hewlett Packard. Amazingly enough, Hewlett Packard, the company I would have actually pegged money on to just kind of downplay this and what was it? Just downplay the storm, just ignore it. What is it called? The Struthers effect, the Susan Struthers effect or something like that? They've actually been the only one to step up. I don't know what is taking Microsoft so long. Look, I get Microsoft must make a lot of money, like tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, providing services to ICE in the US government. But the PR damage that this is going to do is pretty significant, because you have to think that the internet never forgets. And this type of thing people will always bring up for the top CEO if he ever does anything. This is the type of thing people will throw in their face, that, you know, Microsoft supports separated families or child abductions by the government. This is the type of thing that people will always throw back. And yeah, companies from a business side are going to try and salvage this. They should try and salvage this. If the top managers, the CEO, the CFO, the board of directors didn't try and salvage these contracts, they would be in the wrong from a business perspective. You should try and salvage it. But you have to manage profit to PR. And sometimes you have to sacrifice a tiny bit of profit. You have to just not save. How how do I put this? You sacrifice profit not to save face, but to kind of just take the heat off of you. Pass it on to Motorola. Let Motorola take the heat. They're already a nobody company that no one cares about. You know, but Microsoft should be trying to pass the buck off to someone else who's not condemning them. You can't pass it off to Hewlett-Packard. Hewlett-Packard already condemned the government. Why is my... I just noticed you guys cannot see... Oh, no, never mind. You guys can't see. Never mind. So, I'm curious to know how this is going to go with the rest of this tech stuff, or with the rest of this ICE stuff. Because they're all big companies. They're all multi-billion-dollar companies. And these contracts are worth a lot. But if they don't do anything, then they clearly and very silently but vocally say that our employees' opinions don't matter. Shut the hell up and do your job. Okay? If they do it, it saves face. They sacrifice a little bit of money. They take a little bit of a hit on their stock price. But the overall damage is mitigated pretty well. So, which do you do? I personally would go for the latter. While I'm all about trying to make as much profit as possible, I recognize that sometimes you have to sacrifice a little bit of profit just to save your own skin. And if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do, man. Don't let your company take, tens of $1 million of hits for just 50 million. Like, whatever. You're a multi-billion-dollar company. You will survive without that little bonus for the year. You will make it. I promise. Speaking of big companies, Facebook mistakenly leaked developer analytic reports to testers. Segue! So, yeah. Set the days without a Facebook privacy problem counter to 0, because this week an alarmed developer contacted TechCrunch informing us that their Facebook app analytics weekly summary emailed had been delivered to someone outside of their company and contains sensitive business information, including weekly average users, page views, and new users. 43 hours after we contacted Facebook about the issue, the social network now confirms to TechCrunch that 3% of apps using Facebook Analytics had their weekly summary reports sent to the app's testers instead of the app developers. Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's bad. And then following up, here's the message from the Facebook spokesperson. Due to an error in our email delivery system, weekly business performance summaries we send to developers about their account were also sent to the small group of developers app testers. No personal information about the people on Facebook was shared. We're sorry for the error, and we've updated our system to prevent it from happening again. Oh no, another. Oh my gosh, Facebook. What are you doing? This is the kind of thing that should have been like coded for immediately. Like, hey, let's make sure this doesn't go out to the beta testers when it's not supposed to. But no, somehow something this big slipped through. And now, okay, they say no sensitive data was transmitted. And I can believe that because that would obviously have been mentioned in the article. But the fact that something like this has happened, I get that bugs happen. I understand that bugs happen. But when you are the size of Facebook, bugs like this are not okay. Bugs like this have to be caught early, and your internal testing team should have caught this bug. So, yeah, Facebook just continues right when they seem to be coming out of it and they seem to be putting the damage behind them. Oh, somebody just rips open that scab and stabs the wound again and just gives it all that's worth, man. Oh, feels bad for Mark Zuckerberg. Getting back to the ICE thing, actually, this is the article I wanted to talk about before I moved on. When I said that employees were, standing up and fighting back, we had the open letter to Microsoft. Then we had who else? We had open letter to Microsoft. Google has taken a stand against it. And now we have the Amazon who refused to build tech for ICE and stating that this is what they did with Hitler and they're not going to support it now. So here we go. Here's the letter that they wrote. As ethically concerned Amazonians, we demand a choice in what we build and say in how it is used. The letter states, we learn from history and we understand how IBM systems were employed in the 1940s to help Hitler. IBM did not take responsibility then, and by the time their role was understood, it was too late. We will not let this happen again. It is time to act now. Holocaust experts claim that IBM's German subsidiary directly supplied the Nazis with technology which assisted in the operation in concentration camps of Auschwitz and something else. I want to say I'm glad employees are taking a stand. I'm concerned that the management is going to just ignore what they're saying. And if they do, you could, like, look, Amazon is one of those companies that it's so large, it's not going anywhere. Okay? Amazon's not going anywhere anytime soon. But the problem is the fact that when you prove you don't listen to your employees, you have a much harder time attracting new talent, good talent. Because I hate to say it, but all the really, really good talent is more on the liberal side in the IT sector. Like, there are obviously very staunch Republican people, but if those people are smart, they're probably ducking low right now and keeping their head in the sand and not saying a damn word. Because that would just be so stupid to say right now. I have no bend either way, because I'm Canadian, I don't care. But this is one of those things that if you're a Republican, head down, don't say a damn word. Like, you are asking for trouble if you go on any kind of support in what's happening right now. It is a PR disaster, and this is one of those things that if you were to tweet out, good, let the little Mexican kids get ripped from their moms, who cares, no one wants these border jumpers, you will probably never have a job again. If you put that out on Twitter, you will never have a job again, because that's one of those things, like, we can't associate ourselves with this kind of a person, regardless of who it is. You just can't do that. Moving into different news, the Intel CEO has had to step down because they found out he had a relationship with an employee. Now, I've heard of this policy before at some companies, that there's a no romance policy, no fraternization policy, no relationship policy. It is basically by, like, big and small. What was I looking for? By and large, what that policy is. It's no relationship, okay? So the CEO of Brian Kranjnik had to resign on Thursday because the company found out that he was having a consensual relationship. So that's great. At least he didn't rape a chick. That's always good. It's sad that that's like what we call a victory nowadays, but it was consensual. Big claps. Good job. So you got a girl to say yes to you. Thank God. At least somebody had the decency to ask, okay? But they found out he had a relationship with an Intel employee. Clear violation of their no romance policy, okay? I don't know how prevalent this type of policy is now in this day and age. To have a romance partner with somebody at work, or a romance relationship with somebody at work, pretty common nowadays. It's not that rare. So when I see this, and it's like, this is in clear violation of our policies, it's like, that's a really archaic way to look at things, and I don't know if this is okay. It feels like such an old policy. I get how you can have, like, major issues between, if the relationship goes south, how you can have, like, major problems. I get that. But at the same time, though, if you spend a third of your day for 30 years at the same building, in the same department, the thought that, maybe two employees aren't going to start hooking up, you're a little bit on the delusional side. Like, guys are stupid, and believe it or not, women think about sex a lot too. So the thought of two people, like, going to Pound Town, it's not the most alien idea in the world. It's gonna happen. And now with how open and free everything is, it's like, maybe Intel's gonna have to start like reviewing this policy, reviewing some of their older policies and seeing like, is there a place for this? Is there not? See, I can see, the only reason I can see it with Intel is because Intel is one of those companies where the talent you attract is so high caliber that it is probably very hard to replace some of these people. Like, believe it or not, finding a CEO like Brian Kranchnick, not that rare. Finding, if this girl was, say, one of the Intel like CPU engineers, finding somebody of that level, probably a lot harder than finding a good CEO. It's easier to get rid of the CEO than get rid of the engineer. I know that's insane, but it probably is true because there's lots of billion-dollar companies in this world, not so many CPU engineers. And if they are, they either work for TSMC, Snapdragon, or Qualcomm, Intel, AMD, or Broadcom. They probably work for one of those 5 companies. So it's easier to get rid of the CEO, but the fact that they didn't think that this was going to happen is a little bit on the sad and naive side. But at the other end of the spectrum, give it up for Brian Kranchnick. He had a consensual relationship. Dude didn't rape a chick, thank God. So, hashtag not me too. I'm happy about that because I think we can all agree we're getting tired of hearing about it. So it's good. Now, if this girl is smart, she'll keep her head down just like the rest of the CEOs and not say a damn thing. Just let it go. We finally got some news on the brand new AMD Ryzen 32 core CPU that they showed off at Computex. It is labeled AMD Ryzen Threadripper 2990X, okay? And we got some detailed benchmarks that were leaked. So this new server line CPU is 32 cores, 64 threads. Pricing hasn't yet been revealed, although we do expect it to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,000. That's where we're expecting this to kind of lie. I'm not really sure what the exact pricing is, but you can guesstimate it's going to be about $2,000. Now, the upside of this is the fact that it is TR4 socket compatible. All you need to do is flash a firmware update to your motherboard to get the CPU to run. That's awesome. So you don't have to go buy all new hardware. Okay? So with this now, we have seen, according to HKEPC, the new chip is called Ryzen Threadripper 2990X, and the site showcased the CPU's screenshot of the chip, seemingly confirming, first of all, it has a 250 watt TDP with a core clock speed of 3.4 gigahertz. I'm going to restate what I said about the Intel processor when they showed it, okay? I don't know how well it's going to run, and the only reason why I'm not casting a total shadow of doubt like I did on the Intel CPU is because 3.4 gigahertz is achievable because of this 250 watt TDP. Because of this, they've already confirmed that the chip is going to run hot, okay? While hot is not a great thing that you want out of your computer, hot does mean that they are willing to handle the heat output to get to the clock speed. The issue I had with the Intel CPU at the 28 core was the fact that they were saying it was running at 5 gigahertz, but Intel's thing is the fact that their CPUs run ice cold. And those two things, by the laws of physics, can't go together past a point. Okay? So AMD already knows, hey, this thing is gonna run like hot enough to legitimately cook an egg. So the core clock speed will be pretty high. Now, we also have more news as we scroll down here. As AMD implemented the second generation of Ryzen processors, Precision Boost 2 and XFR, which I think is their version of turbo clocking, to raise all core boost speeds, not peak single core speeds. For example, the Ryzen 27X will reach 4.35 gigahertz, and this CPU will also get up into like that 4.2. It gets up to 4.2 using XFR, which I think is their version of Intel Boost. So the boost is obviously not a permanent thing. You can overclock this thing, I think, to like the 4 gigahertz range. You will need a special cooler from like Cooler Master, who unveiled that they are releasing an updated version of a cooler. But overclocking this behemoth is gonna be really hard if you don't want to like sweat to death in your office. If you're working like an open air, tell the boss, great news. We'll get 2 of these servers, keep them in the main room. You can turn off the heating for the rest of the year. These things will power the office, no problem. I still want one of these. I am absolutely going to buy one of these when they come out because 64 thread processors, I will probably never need to buy another server again for my house. I will probably be able to live on the server for the next 10 years without even thinking twice about it. And what's also good about this new updated Ryzen set is the fact that they have slashed the price of the 1950X to $880. The 1950X is the current flagship, so this 2990X is what is going to take the place of 1950. So 1950 is currently their $1,000 processor, which they have slashed by about 20-ish, 18% to $880, which is a great deal. If you aren't wanting to drop $2,000, but you still want to build a home server, this is the time to do it. This is it, man. A Ryzen 1950X is still 16 cores and 32 threads. It will get the job done, no problem. Like, unless you're like me and just like to overkill everything for the sake of being able to say you overkilled everything, you know what? This is great. If you're looking to just try and get into like server IT and you need something to like run a server box on and see how like multi-threaded workloads work in a big virtual environment, not just splitting your i7 into 2 machines, but you want to like make 4 simultaneous virtual machines, this is a great time to do it. At 880, you're looking at about 300 for the motherboard. You're looking at about maybe 300 for the RAM. That's 6. That's 1400. You're all in all, to build a whole server, you're looking at about $2,000. $2,000 for a full 32 core server. Not the worst thing in the world. And our final story tonight, we are looking at Nvidia give away 20 Titan V CEO Edition GPUs for AI researchers. The Titan V is the current flagship GPU for Nvidia. It came out, I think, last year, or maybe it was this year. Costs $3,000, but this version has 32 gigs of HBM2 memory. That's high bandwidth version 2 memory. So this one has just shy of 3 times the memory of the other Titan V that came out. This is going to be used for AI researchers. It's really cool. Believe it or not, the Titan V, based on the benchmarks, is not the greatest for gaming. It actually doesn't perform very well at all for games. So this is a academic white collar card, but it's still great to know that 32 gig cards are coming, and they're well on their way now because we only saw them in the Quattro series. And 2, HBM2 memory is now also in production. So we hopefully might be having a better yield of HBM2, meaning Samsung's GDDR6 and then HBM2 might be able to go head to head. And we might start to get different cards with better speeds, with better data throughput on them. So that's pretty neat. I wonder what this card would cost at 32 gigs of HBM2. If you were to buy this off the shelf, I would have to imagine that this card would probably go for $12,000, maybe $14,000 at least. But hey, you never know, man. That's just me speculating off what the Quattro card cost. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for me today, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. I've been Arif. This has been your Daily Chat Season 3, Episode 19. If you like what you see here, hit the follow button if you're watching on Twitch or Mixer. Hit the subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. By the way, speaking of YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Just underneath here, you guys can see that we have a counter running. We are trying to get to 1,000 followers so I can get my stuff back from YouTube. You know, like my monetization and my super chats and all that. So if you guys like what you see here, hey, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Share this on Twitter. Share it on Reddit. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I've been Arif with the Daily Chat, and I'll see all of you tomorrow. Bye.